So I am on the first level of Parker Hall once again. I have shot several videos throughout the years in Parker Hall, but this will be the final video that I'm shooting in Parker Hall because these are the final days of the building itself. This is late June of 2026, and on the 1st of July of this year, so in less than a week, they are going to change the locks on the building, and all of us who have had offices or have had access to this building will no longer have that access because the building will finally be getting torn down. However, it's not going to get torn down, I've heard, until December of this year because they're going to keep the building extant for the bathrooms for football season. Parker Hall is right next to the football stadium, and despite all of its shortcomings as a building, it does have functional bathrooms at this point. So they are going to wall off all access to the building except for access to the restrooms so that visitors to the football games, to the home football games, will have access to the bathrooms. That is what I have heard. But for my part, I will not be able to get access to this building after next week. So I'm doing one more final tour, and one thing I definitely wanted to visit was coming down into the Parker Hall first floor, the 100 section. Decades ago, this was part of the OIT, or the Division of University Computing, but it has been, this section which I've shown in a previous video is graduate student offices. But the reason I'm going all the way down this hallway again is because the door to the old computer room is actually propped open. I have never been in this room before. Well, I say that, actually, again, decades ago, when this was all part of the Division of University Computing, this whole area was full of computers, old computers and tape drives and who knows what else. And I did, at times, if I can find my way through here, I had been in this room at times because some friends of mine who worked in Division of University Computing, they had offices, kind of offices slash cubicles in this room, and I would often knock on this door from the other side, and I would be let in and talk to them and so forth. But I never really had access to this much larger space, which again at the time was filled with computers and all the networking stuff. It was the Division of University Computing. They now, for over a decade, have had a brand new big building on another part of campus. So this has been vacated. One of the main reasons they need a new building is this place flooded. Parker Hall still floods to this day. In fact, while we're getting kicked out next week, we're just lucky that this whole building hasn't washed away or collapsed on top of us at this point after all these decades. You'll notice this floor has removable panels. There was a time a couple decades ago when this was still part of Division of University Computing that this whole area flooded. Somewhere up on the wall, one of these walls, I heard a story that they had this big red button that, you know, was the emergency button to shut everything off, all the electricity and all the networking off with one big press. And after a flood, they actually had to do that because mud was coming up through the floor. It washed underneath the building and came up through the floor panels and, you know, put in danger all the computers and anyone who was here. You can see all the cables that would run through. So imagine that just being filled with water and mud. That's why they shut everything off. I think there is still some networking, computer networking going on. If you look in the corner of this room, there still looks like it's a Cisco router box, or whatever you would call it, I guess a router with Cat5 cables going into it. So this is still serving some purpose. I don't know if these giant machines here what exactly these things are, but you know, they look important, and either power machines or computing networking machines. And this is all still running on some level. I don't know if this is going to be shut down next week. Again, all I know is next week that they are changing the locks to the outside of the building so that those of us who just have casual access to it, because we had offices, we will no longer have access to it. But again, what I've heard is that the building will actually come down in December of this year after football season is over. But this room I never had access to, so I just wanted to make a quick video of it and see what was in here, which there isn't a whole lot, because they have, this has basically been like this for a decade, ever since what is now called OIT, but used to be Division of University Computing. They got their own building. You can see some more underneath the floor, old filing cabinets. Somewhere there was a post, some color-coded post. I don't even know what this has to do. Something about the cables in this box. All I know is this was typed up by a fellow named Gene Stewart, whom I remember way back in the days of Division of University Computing. I knew vaguely who he was. I think he is long retired. So anyway, a final tour of a room I will not have access to soon, to illustrate furthermore the issue of flooding in this building. Again, in all these rooms, these are all grad student offices. You'll notice just recently, in the past month, there was significant flooding in Parker Hall, and you've noticed they basically just removed all the drywall in the first 2 feet or so around the floor, because it all just flooded, and they just constantly were having to pump water out. So they just removed the drywall. Lord knows about the electrical outlets. But again, this is all pretty much abandoned at this point. Everyone is supposed to be moving to their new offices over the next week. If they don't move out soon, they're not going to have their stuff. So anyway, this building is truly about to fall down on its own if we weren't moving out. It may not need to be demolished in December. It could just come down by itself. Anyway, this will probably be my last sign off from within Parker Hall.